podcast that explores intersections of inspiring technology, fascinating people, and captivating stories, or a combo of all three. So get ready to embrace your inner cool kid as we go behind the scenes with today's innovators and storytellers. I'm your host, Cameron Kitt. I'm the founder of Yo-Yos, You Own Your Own Stories. And today we have the privilege of talking with Matt Leta, the awesome founder of FutureWorks. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on. So I think we share a common interest in futurism and maybe even solar punk. Is that right?
Yeah, that's true.
What got you into just the world of futurism? What was the initiating experience for you?
I want to say anxiety.
You need to
So
feel calm.
I guess it's like if you're naturally worried about the future, you're gonna have anxiety, and if you're naturally kind of worried about the past, you're gonna have depression. And so out of the two, I've sort of been a lot. At some point when I left Silicon Valley and I exited my company, and I went on my like sort of travel around the world journey to sort of discover myself deeper in my late 20s. I I discovered that I've been having a lot of anxiety, and
Hmm.
sort of connected it, and I realized that this is because I really care about the future. And so I think I was just then I've looked back and I thought like it's just natural, like it's always been this way in a way. And so I
Yeah.
manage like understand how to channel it. And so what I do
Mm,
is
into
sort of
action.
channeling it into action, and yeah, and it's kind of making myself comfortable by helping build a better future. I think that's became kind of like my own theme.
Yeah, because just like shivering with fear isn't really accomplishing anything, and my small like primate body is not made to handle knowing all of the stuff that's happening, and it's like it's too much for us. But when you start doing specific things, so you wrote a book called
Yeah,
what is it called? Leap Guide, right?
the lead guide.
Um,
Yeah.
and you founded FutureWorks, and you do work with AI and multiple different companies. Can you just tell me a story about a client you've worked with or a project you worked on that really stands out in your memory?
Oh wow, there's many. Um, I think I'll go for like recent.
Mm-hmm.
What really excites me, and it might sound boring because it's more boring than projects we've done in the past because we've done like really funky things in the past. But this is kind of like I don't know if this is like our own maturing. But there is a company called Nextracker in California. It's like a multi-billion-dollar sort of late-stage startup, let's call it. And they've been a hardware company since their beginning, like making kind of these devices that would rotate solar panels to the sun, and they are great at it. But they IPO'd and they found out that their stock is going down, and they started looking into it and realized that well, they're not really digital. They don't have anything. They don't have software, right? They've got like this control systems for the panels, and they wanted to build software, like to kind of like embrace this layer on top of those humongous solar farms that they're deploying. And so they hired us to envision that direction, like a direction that would include AI and and whatever modern tech we can use to firstly solve their like supply chain and logistics for those big deployments, and then it went on from there. And
Hmm.
it's been like a very pleasant ride because it started with a small project. We solved something with logistics, with like a system that would predict when parts arrive and so on, so that people could spend much less time on site, and so that saved like tens of thousands of man hours within the first 6 months. But then we went from there to unlock other things, and we sort of like became this like R&D leading partner, and we sort of keep solving new things and helping them with overall sort of track to become like an AI powered sort of very modern or even futuristic enterprise. And the cool thing about it, and that's the boring thing, is like that we are where we are in time and history. Markets have been crashing, and I would say solar is not the sexiest thing in today's America, unfortunately. and their stock has gone up like 30, 40, I think maybe 50% even up in the last few months. So like completely against the markets. Like if the markets were favorable, it would have been probably even more. And so it's like a very direct result, I think, of some of our work. And I really like that because it's like concept work. It's kind of like, kind of creating vision and designs and ideas and communicating things that then transferred into creating real products, to creating like real ROI, like real kind of, it's like billions of
And that's
dollars
what
in
feels good.
valuation.
I don't find this
Yeah.
boring at all. I mean, like,
Yeah.
so let's talk about solar because, like, I'm a solar
Yeah.
punk
Right.
and I've talked to a lot of people. Like you said, it's not the sexiest thing. It just kind of boggles my mind that there seems to be so much pushback to this technology. For
I
instance,
know.
yesterday I was talking to my friend Masitan, who lives in Bamako, capital of
Hmm.
Mali. They're having a lot of electricity and supply issues with power, and I'm like, that is like the sun shines directly onto that country all day
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
Why are there not solar panels so that people can be, what is the issue? I mean, we hear about pushback, but like what do you say to people when you encounter this like antagonism towards solar?
I don't tell them,
You don't try and
They-
engage. Okay. It just
I think no,
surprises
it's
me
not. It's not
cuz
that. It's. I've been going to climate conferences and all sorts of events in that space for many years, and I feel like everyone's in their own bubble recently, and people have like kind of like there's like incentive structures behind how they behave, and so there is of course a lot of incentive for fossil fuel industry to pump out what's left before the inevitable transition, and so they cause a lot of they manipulation through
okay.
various communications efforts and so on. So I kind of like see this echoed, through what people think and say, and so it's not their worldview necessarily,
It's
and
just
then
the
neither is
effectiveness.
mine necessarily. We just like submit to some
Yeah, it's
some
just
information that we prefer to choose in our own echo chambers, and so I feel like yeah, I feel like changing people's mind is very difficult these days, and I sort of stopped doing that
hmm.
whatsoever on like a smaller scale. But I think enabling efficiency is what inevitably leads there, and I
And
can speak more to that. But yes,
I
you
would love
wanted
to
to say
talk about
something.
that. Like to me, there is I'm not an engineer and I'm not a scientist. I'm
Yeah,
a sci-fi fan who
yeah,
spent a lot of time
I
like
love that.
watching the space, right? Is it seems inevitable. There seems to be no like there can't be any other move. We have to do wind and solar. Like I mean everyone's like, "Oh, fusion." So what I'm hearing from you is like it's just the effectiveness of $1 billion $100 billion industry spreading misinformation, which is what it's really good at, right? Of like
Yeah,
putting in the seeds of doubt. The technology exists and it's there. That's one of my favorite Onion articles. Just like
yeah,
scientists gently remind the world that the technology to solve climate change currently exists and is ready to
yeah,
go at any time,
yeah,
right? Like that's I guess the pain is like, man, it just strikes me like why aren't we implementing it everywhere? But you kind of answered your question, which is just like resistance, previous entrenched industries wanting like and their dying gasps. But yeah, talk about the efficiency element if you don't mind.
yeah. Like what drives us in what we do at FutureWorks is the idea of like essentially symbiosis of like human, machine, and environment, right? Like an element, like balance eventually, right? And then and I think we've spent a lot of time analyzing it with Future Horizon, which is like my kind of like our community we started a while back, and
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
been focused on sort of like searching for meaning and future, and funding nonprofits for primarily climate, environmental, but also social justice, education, and so on. Kind of like trying to solve problems of tomorrow, or help solve them. And we've arrived like, okay, like if we are to have this symbiotic state in the future, then we need to kind of like undo and redo things,
Hmm.
and we need to transition into a state where we probably do want to collaborate and kind of like deeply integrate with intelligent systems, that will inevitably drive towards optimization, right? Because in essence there's like anything that can be automated will be automated, I think, and anything that can be optimized will be optimized given enough time, right? It's just like the question is only like when, how long it will it take. And I think the earlier we get there, for many reasons, the earlier we can optimize things. And right now, if you think about it, what's like the least, optimized thing in the world? It's like shipping fuel on boats that burn fuel to arrive in another continent and burn it at like 60% efficiency. I mean, it's like it's insane, right? Like after kind of like digging it out from or pumping it out of the ground somewhere, it's just like an archaic system that is very strong and well funded, but in the end, it's just not it's not optimized. Like it's just not efficient.
Yeah,
And I
it's
think
just not
efficiency
efficient.
will it's solve itself by its own inertia. But our goal and the problem that's standing in the on the way to that happening, in our opinion and research, is the lack of ability to change. Like large companies, for example, or governments, unable to embrace new, unable to transition, transform, and embrace new technologies and actually optimize things, right?
Yeah.
If they are able to, then we're gonna have solar and fusion and everything implemented, and we're gonna have new cables, and power storage gets solved, and so on, right? We just need the ability to move. Like Texas right now, suddenly has the most solar, I think, in the US, and for the first time has like proper power security because of solar, despite being, a state that
Yeah,
you would
it's
not
our
think as a,
mindset. It's human
yeah,
biology. It's our change resistance that is the problem,
yeah,
right? And then when we start, I like workplace psychology. Once you start getting to these big companies, they're even slower to change.
yeah.
But yeah, like I have so much hope. But yeah, like you said, it's just so inefficient, and things like solar power would make countries more free, and there's a lot of maybe that getting to like to geopolitical issues, right? Of like power
Hmm.
control. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of issues there. I used to volunteer and work with Repower America, which was Al Gore's lobbying group, where we would try to build
No, cool.
clean energy jobs, right? Like,
Yeah,
okay, let's build jobs here. Like there's so much positivity, but
yeah.
yeah, I think it's just really frustrating to see, yeah, the starts and stops. But I'm glad that the company that you've worked with, has had an increase in stock price. If we're taking away all the emotion of it and just saying, yeah, this is just the more efficient method, you can't really argue with it, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think there has been a lot of like polarization. This is climate, this is not climate, I'm left, right, and whatnot, especially visible now. But and somehow they got so politicized that you had to be a certain way, and then suddenly this current flip is very interesting, of like Republicans embracing Teslas and like Proud Boys out there with their cyber trucks. And it's
Right.
like,
Yeah.
for
Very.
many,
No one
I'm sure
expected
it's like
that.
so confusing, right?
No one expected that. Yeah. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's just, it's, let's see how it settles, right? It's a very interesting time.
Well, yeah. It
But
might be good for solar long term to have
right,
it be
yeah, it is.
embraced that
No,
way.
it's definitely good for solar. I think there's no question about it. Like again, Texas now is a solar superpower. Like how would that happen otherwise?
I didn't know that. But I've been hearing about it for a long time, that we could supposedly power all of America with like a 4 square mile panel section in Texas. I've like been hearing this, which is
Yeah,
like
Elon Musk
kind
has
of revert,
been.
which is
Yeah,
which is also like an effective form of propaganda, right? Like the way that messages trickle down from the environmental side versus the oil
yeah.
and gas side. I just wanted to stop here for a second and remind everyone that this podcast is brought to you by Yo-Yos. You Own Your Own Stories, a documentary storytelling company that demystifies cutting edge technology with emotional human stories. If you've got a cool story to share, we can help you get it out there. So Matt, I want to ask you, actually, I'm glad you brought up Future Horizons. So that you started that before you started FutureWorks. So you'd been thinking kind of, and this is like not a business, right? It's a nonprofit, it's an organization, it's like bringing like-minded people together. What would you say, it's over 5 years old. What would you say is one of the biggest plot twists you faced with Future Horizon?
Plot twists. Interesting.
Yeah, filmmaker
Um,
term.
it started as a plot twist, but oh my, there were many. It started from like actually a Burning Man camp originally, which was just like called
All
F,
right,
focus
let's
on
go.
trans,
That's
trans
awesome.
family and future. which was basically just like kind of like me trying to bring some friends together and make a camp that's not about like just hedonistic partying, but we love to party, but like also kind of like let's discuss those topics and let's try to see if we all kind of like can figure out what is the like at the time the question was what is there to be excited about the future? Like we seem to love like dystopian visions, and so
Right.
like can we have like protopian or utopian even visions that stick? And like what would they be anyway? What is the future we all want? And so we just kept asking those questions and looking for answers, and that became like a community. And then that community, why I'm saying it started with a plot twist. So basically, at that time, 2019, I moved from New York to the Caribbean, and we wanted to organize. We wanted like we noticed that the town we moved to was a little like sketchy at the time, and we wanted to kind of like the idea was like how about we start an ongoing gathering here and bring some soul to the place. Right? Like that was the idea, and we had a camp, we had the community, and so on. So we were like, let's bring some people who are like change makers, leaders, investors, entrepreneurs, and whatnot. Let's bring them together for a few days and think about like building a better future on the beach in the place. And we did that, and we planned it for March 2020. And you know what else happened in March 2020?
I do.
Um,
Pandemic.
the market crashed halfway through our event. Basically, the pandemic started during the gathering in the West. Yeah, and and my God, we arrived there like just another event, and when the people were leaving, firstly people were getting evacuated of the island or whatnot. Many were like, "I'm not going back to my home country. I'm gonna get into lockdown. I'm staying." So they stayed sometimes for 2 months, and we had this horizon ahead of us. There was like just no events. Like some people didn't go to another event for like 18 months after that.
Hmm.
And so the people connected and they started creating solutions, creating things. Everyone had time suddenly. And
Hmm.
they get like inspired by this, by the energy of each other. And I had this digital product studio at the time. So we're like, hey, like build nonprofits. We're gonna do what we can to support you. We're gonna do the design or tech or whatever websites, whatever we can do. Just build things, right? And they did,
Like
and we
what?
collab. Oh my god! Like a whole bunch of things. So immediately the pandemic was a topic. So a bunch of people in the group did like a thing called Mask Force that would bring masks to frontline workers in America. It was the first group to deliver masks to New York, for example. They
Wow.
got 3 million plus masks when they
Wow.
were impossible to get. Right? It was like March still, and so that no, I think that it raised $3 million and it was more masks than that. Yeah.
Like that's what I'm hearing. Like this is the antidote to anxiety is like collective action, right?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So that was one. Then all sorts of things were born. Like there was like a feeding. Like we were worried that people in the local area are gonna get endangered because tourism is what drives money in Dominican Republic, which is the country. So we started another activity. And I'm saying all those things were not started by me. Like we just supported as they
It's
came.
about, yeah, a group.
Yeah. And so we there was an activity to feed people that started feeding 10,000 people every day at some point, but then we realized that the government has it.
Okay,
And we built a platform to fund money for democratic elections as well.
that's crazy.
And and that raised, that went became a set of nonprofits that collectively nonprofits born within the community raised over $200 million within 3 years
That's
after
amazing.
that. Just
Well,
born.
Matt,
Yeah.
I unfortunately only have like 5 minutes left, and I have three more questions. But like
Oh,
that
sure, go for it.
is
Sorry.
no, 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 like that's so cool. Like this is like that is the antidote. You talked about like this is where we connected. Is that I'm really tired of the post-apocalypse. I'm really tired of the apocalyptic visions that is
Yeah.
pervasive across science fiction. Where are you? Can you give me one example of a protopian or like positive futurism or solar punk story that you've seen that is like presenting a positive vision of the future?
No. Uh,
Right? Like I can't think of a single movie. Maybe Strange Worlds, that one Disney movie. Um,
they're always like they always turn bad, right? There's like we've got a lot of things like Aeon Flux or something that like would present kind of like a really kind of like aspirational, interesting vision of the future, or like there is like one universe in like the kind of one of the Marvel movies about the multiverse had like one verse that's like solar punky and
yeah,
so on. I once I had the pleasure to spend a weekend with the founder of Marvel, David Mercer, I think, um, and um, and we talked about a lot about this. And after Marvel, he really wanted to do exactly this, and I
yeah.
think it just didn't get picked up. And even a person like that, who created essentially,
It's like it's well, it's like if it
got this
bleeds, it
super
leads.
Iron movie and then built,
The,
the whole empire. We
it's
would think that
amazing.
he has enough leverage in Hollywood, like wasn't able to do. I
We
don't know
kind of do
exactly
need
what
it to
happened,
be
but yeah,
we
yeah,
need it to be at that Marvel level. Basically, what I've talked to people about is like to do what propaganda does, to like plant the seed in people's minds, is to have stories that take place in a universe where cities are green, solar powered, and like everything is clean energy connected, and then the story happens within that. So it's kind of like a cozy sci-fi universe where we have a mystery or whatever happening. Right now, when we think of sci-fi, it's like the plot is that the world is ended, and so, yeah, it needs to be at that level. The only place I'm seeing it is in books. And luckily, there are some really good books out there, like the like Becky Chambers stuff and Martha Wells or whatnot. But like, yeah, it's like, why is it so hard to make movies that show a positive future? My gut says that it's not as like scary or that it pushes more to like the plot of the story being good, but I'm really hopeful that we can this like movement will start to seed people's minds, because I think we do really subconsciously create the world that we envision, that's shown to us in films, right? We do it
yeah.
without realizing. All right, last two questions. What do
Go
you
ahead.
think? All right, this is your like crystal ball moment, because this podcast is also about tech. What is your like number one future prediction that you think is going to happen? It might be something that people disagree with, or like what exciting technology do you think is going to like really transform the world in the next, century?
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's like what excites you most about the future right now?
What excites me most?
Hmm.
Well, we're in an incredible transitional time, right? And so, I think a lot of problems that we're currently seeing, like I think the time to solution or time to change used to be quite long, right? Like, you know, people moving from like everyone works in agriculture to only 1% of people working agriculture took like 150 years, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then, and then I think it took 7 years to onboard 100 million users with the internet, but it took like a month to onboard those people with Gen AI, right? And so everything is getting compressed, and I think predicting the future in 100 years is very difficult, and I think predicting the future in 5 years is also very very difficult right now. But there are some fundamentals, and I think we can see that the double exponential of like compute costs constantly collapsing and capacity increasing, and demographic driven foundational sort of mega trends are going to continue. And I think what people often disagree with me is that climate will get solved, for example.
Oh, yeah, me too. I think we'll have to. I mean, it will probably be bad. I think climate will. Well, I mean, like, yeah, I agree. I mean, I think we'll have to work towards it. I have this strong image. Matt, that's
Yeah.
so helpful. I would love to discuss this more with you, but my last question is, since we're a tech and futurism podcast, and we do a lot of medical stories too, who do you think would be a phenomenal guest for me to have on the show?
Oh, um, are you familiar with hmm, been chatting with him a lot, and yet my is this being recorded still?
It will be edited.
Hold on. Oh my god, the name just slipped in my mind, but he's excellent, and we've been chatting with him a lot. One second. Um, um, Jerome Glenn. Are you familiar with this gentleman?
No, I haven't heard of him.
So he's like a futurist, very interesting, very well spoken futurist, very deep
Cool.
in AI. He publishes the State of the Future report, and he just recently published the 20th edition of it.
Wow.
He actually coined the term futuring, and I've been chatting with him quite a bunch in the last half a year while working on my next book, which is coming out in 3 weeks.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah, and
What's
so
it called?
100x. It's like the
Ooh.
mantra of the AI times, I feel like.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. Thank you. I would love an intro to him. And that's all the time we have. Thanks for listening to Cool Cool Cool. I'm Cameron Kitt from Yo-Yo's. Huge thank you to Matt Leta for sharing your vision, your stories, and you can check out the show notes for a link to his company, FutureWorks, and also you can check out a little bit about Yo-Yo. So let us know what you thought of this episode on social using hashtag Cool 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 Podcast. Matt, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Cameron. Pleasure.